Welcome back, Coinology. Imagine holding a single 1-cent coin in your hand, something so small and ordinary that people usually drop it into a drawer, lose it under a sofa, or ignore it on the street. Now imagine that the very same 1-cent coin, especially connected to the year 2000, has stories, mysteries, rare variations, and legendary examples that collectors around the world whisper about. Coins that have been linked in rumors, auction fantasies, private sales, and extreme speculation to values that climb into tens of millions, even reaching figures people can hardly believe. This is the strange, fascinating world of the 1-cent coin, where metal, history, mistakes, and human obsession collide. The 1-cent coin, commonly called the penny in the United States, is one of the oldest and most iconic pieces of American money. By the year 2000, the penny had already passed through more than 2 centuries of evolution, design changes, metal composition experiments, political symbolism, and economic debate. When people think of the year 2000, they think of a new millennium, computers, Y2K fears, fireworks, and a sense that history itself was turning a page. Coins minted in that year naturally carry emotional weight, and for collectors, emotion often becomes value. A standard 1-cent coin from the year 2000 was struck by the United States Mint in several locations, primarily Philadelphia and Denver. There were also proof versions struck in San Francisco. On the surface, these coins look simple, but the details matter deeply. The weight of a regular circulation 2000 1-cent coin is approximately 2.50 grams. This weight comes from its composition, which by that time was mostly zinc, about 97.5%, with a thin copper plating of roughly 2.5%. This change in metal composition happened decades earlier, in 1982, but it still plays a crucial role in how modern pennies are valued, tested, authenticated, and sometimes misidentified. Collectors often use precise digital scales to weigh coins down to the hundredth of a gram. A tiny difference in weight can indicate something extraordinary: a wrong planchet error, an off-metal strike, or even a transitional error where a coin was struck on a planchet never meant for that year. For example, if a 2000 penny were somehow struck on an older, solid copper planchet weighing around 3.11 grams, that single difference could turn an ordinary coin into a legendary rarity. The coin symbol for 1 cent is simple, usually written as 1 cent or sometimes just cent. But behind this small symbol lies massive economic and cultural meaning. The penny has represented thrift, savings, beginnings, and the idea that even the smallest unit of money matters. Phrases like "a penny saved is a penny earned" echo through history. When collectors talk about a 1-cent coin being worth millions, it feels almost poetic, as if history is laughing at our assumptions about value. The design of the year 2000 1-cent coin features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a portrait that has been used since 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of his birth. By 2000, Lincoln had already been on the penny for 91 years, making it one of the longest-running portraits on any circulating coin in the world. The portrait used in 2000 is based on the Victor David Brenner design, although it has been modified and refined over the decades. Lincoln faces right, with the word liberty to his left, the motto "In God We Trust" above, and the date 2000 to the right. The reverse design in the year 2000 still shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The memorial is detailed enough that, under magnification, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the building. This detail fascinates collectors and casual observers alike, because it shows the level of craftsmanship involved in such a small coin. History plays a massive role in coin value, and the penny's history is rich and complex. The 1-cent coin was first introduced in the United States in 1793. Over the years, it has changed designs many times, from the chain cent to the wreath cent, the large cent, the flying eagle cent, the Indian head cent, and finally the Lincoln cent. Each change reflects political shifts, artistic tastes, economic pressures, and technological advances in minting. By the time the year 2000 arrived, the penny was already controversial. Many economists argued that it cost more than 1 cent to produce. Debates about eliminating the penny were common in newspapers and television shows. Ironically, this debate added to the mystique of modern pennies. Some collectors began saving coins from the year 2000, believing that future generations would see them as symbols of the end of the penny era, even though the penny continues to be minted today. Now, when people hear claims about a 1-cent coin being worth $57,000 million, or $57 billion, it sounds unbelievable, almost absurd. And that is exactly why such stories spread. In the world of coin collecting, there are legends, rumors, and extreme outliers. There are coins that sold for millions because they were unique, because they were never supposed to exist, or because they carried historical weight far beyond their face value. Think of famous examples like the 1943 copper penny, struck accidentally during World War II when pennies were supposed to be made of steel. Only a handful are known, and they have sold for hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars. Or the 1974 aluminum penny, never released to the public, with only a few examples known, each considered priceless. These coins teach collectors one important lesson: sometimes the rarest coins are mistakes. This is where the year 2000 1-cent coin enters the realm of extreme speculation. If a 2000 penny were discovered with a dramatic mint error, such as being struck on a gold planchet, a silver planchet, or a copper planchet intended for another era, it could theoretically become one of the most valuable modern coins ever found. Combine that with perfect condition, full mint luster, and professional grading at the highest possible level, and suddenly the numbers collectors talk about start to climb into unbelievable territory. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC play a crucial role in undisclosed sales, and coins locked away in vaults, never shown to the public. Some people believe that somewhere, a 2000 penny exists that breaks all known rules, a coin that was never meant to be released, a coin that slipped through the cracks of the mint's quality control. Whether these stories are true or exaggerated, they fuel the imagination and keep people searching through rolls of pennies, hoping to find the impossible. The act of searching itself is part of the magic. People buy rolls of pennies from banks, sit at tables with magnifying glasses, digital scales, and bright lights, examining each coin carefully. They look for double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, missing letters, rotated dies, and unusual colors. A normal penny might be worth 1 cent, but a rare error might be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more. The year 2000 also produced proof pennies, specially made for collectors with mirror-like fields and frosted designs. These coins were not meant for circulation and were sold in proof sets. A flawless proof penny from 2000, graded PR70 Deep Cameo, already commands a premium. Add an error to a proof coin, and the value multiplies dramatically. Another factor in value is condition over time. Copper-plated zinc pennies are prone to corrosion, bubbling, and environmental damage. Finding a 2000 penny in perfect condition decades later becomes increasingly difficult. This scarcity of perfection drives prices higher for top-graded examples. Even if the coin itself is common in lower grades, the symbolism of the puddinly, people re-evaluate similar coins, hoping to catch the next big discovery. If a unique 2001 cent coin were ever publicly confirmed and sold for an astronomical amount, it would instantly rewrite price guides and collector expectations. Some collectors argue that no modern penny could ever be worth tens of millions, let alone billions. Others point out that rarity has no upper limit when combined with extreme wealth and desire. Art, watches, cars, and even digital assets have sold for prices that once seemed impossible. Coins are no different when the right conditions align. The story of the 1 cent coin from the year 2000 is therefore not just about metal and minting. It is about belief, hope, and the human tendon. As the story continues, the fascination with the 1 cent coin from the year 2000 grows deeper, because once you understand the basics, your mind naturally starts asking more dangerous questions. What if the coin you are holding is not just a normal circulation strike? What if it carries a hidden story that even experts have not fully uncovered yet? This is where the world of microdetails, mint processes, and human error becomes incredibly important, because coins are not made by magic. They are made by machines, and machines, guided by humans, can make mistakes. Inside a minting facility, thousands of blank planchets move at high speed, being fed into presses that strike them with enormous force. Each strike leaves an impression that becomes a coin. In the year 2000, these machines were producing millions upon millions of pennies every single day. Under such conditions, even the smallest malfunction can create something extraordinary. A die might crack. A die might be used longer than it should be. A blank from a different metal batch might slip into the wrong hopper. A planchet might be improperly prepared, too thin, too thick, or missing its copper plating entirely. When a penny is struck without its copper plating, it appears silver gray instead of the usual reddish color. Many people mistake such coins for steel or aluminum, and while some are simply damaged or chemically altered, others are genuine mint errors. A genuine unplated zinc penny from the year 2000, authenticated and graded, can already be worth a surprising amount of money compared to its face value. Multiply that rarity by condition, uniqueness, and demand, and the numbers climb rapidly. Collectors also pay extreme attention to doubled dies. A doubled die occurs when the die that strikes the coin receives a misaligned impression during its creation. This results in doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements. On a 2001 cent coin, doubling might appear on the date, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." To the naked eye, it might look like a slightly blurry coin, but under magnification, the doubling can be dramatic and unmistakable. Famous doubled die pennies from other years have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes more. Another mysterious category is the off-center strike. When a planchet is not properly aligned during the strike, part of the design may be missing, while another part appears stretched or distorted. If the date remains visible, off-center pennies become highly collectible. A dramatic off-center 2000 penny, especially one struck multiple times or showing overlapping impressions, can capture the imagination of collectors worldwide. Then there are broad strikes, where the collar that normally shapes the edge of the coin fails, allowing the metal to spread outward. The result is a coin larger than normal, thinner than normal, and visually striking. These errors prove that even modern, high-tech minting processes are not perfect. Edge errors are another rabbit hole. While pennies do not normally have edge lettering, abnormalities in thickness, shape, or smoothness can indicate something unusual.
Some error coins show partial reading transferred from other denominations due to minting mishaps.
Such anomalies are rare, but when they occur, they become legendary talking points in numismatic circles. As collectors dig deeper, they begin to understand that rarity alone is not enough.
Documentation matters. Authentication matters. A coin's story matters.
A 2000 penny found in circulation, pulled from a pocket or a cash register, carries a different emotional weight than one purchased from a dealer. The idea that treasure can still be found in everyday life is powerful, and it drives countless people to search. The year 2000 also represents a psychological milestone. Humans are deeply symbolic creatures. The turn of the millennium felt like the start of something new, even though time itself is continuous.
Coins minted during the year became instant souvenirs of a global moment.
Governments around the world issued special commemorative coins, but the humble penny continued its quiet journey, unnoticed by most, yet saved by some. This saving behavior itself affects future value. When many people hoard coins, they reduce the number available in circulation, but they also create large supplies of uncirculated examples. Over time, however, many of these saved coins are lost, damaged, or forgotten. The surviving high-grade examples become scarcer with each passing decade. The market value of coins is shaped by auctions, and auctions are theaters of emotion. When two determined bidders face off over a single coin, logic often gives way to desire. Prices soar not because of metal content, but because of pride, competition, and the fear of missing out. A unique or nearly unique 2001 cent coin, offered at a major auction, could ignite such a battle, especially if media attention amplifies the event. Stories of record-breaking sales spread quickly across social media and video platforms.
A headline claiming that a penny sold for millions captures public imagination instantly.
Even if such a price represents an extreme outlier, it changes perception. Suddenly, people who never cared about coins start looking at their change differently. This surge of interest feeds back into the market, increasing demand for related items. The idea of a $57,000 million valuation lives in this realm of myth, speculation, and extreme possibility. While traditional price guides focus on realistic market values, legends exist beyond those pages. Some collectors believe that certain coins are priceless, meaning their true value cannot be measured in ordinary terms.
Museums might refuse to sell them. Private collectors might hide them away. Governments might claim ownership.
In such cases, any number attached to the coin becomes symbolic rather than literal. Another layer of intrigue involves counterfeit detection. When values rise, fakes follow. The market becomes a battlefield between authentic pieces and clever imitations.
Experts use microscopes, metal analysis, weight measurements, and even X-ray fluorescence to verify composition.
A genuine rare 2000 penny would need to pass every test, leaving no doubt about its authenticity. The zinc core of modern pennies complicates things further. Over time, damage can expose the zinc, leading to corrosion that changes the coin's appearance. This damage can be mistaken for errors by inexperienced collectors. Learning to tell the difference becomes a rite of passage in the hobby. True errors are born at the mint, not after years in circulation. The emotional pull of the penny is also tied to nostalgia. Many people remember being children around the year 2000, saving coins in jars, buying candy, or making wishes at fountains. A penny from that year becomes a physical connection to personal memories. When personal memory intersects with market rarity, the result can be powerful. As years pass, the question of the penny's future becomes more urgent. Inflation erodes its purchasing power.
Digital payments reduce its use.
Some countries have already eliminated their lowest denominations. If the United States ever stops producing the penny, coins from certain years may take on new significance as representatives of the end of an era. The year 2000, standing at the doorway of the new millennium, would naturally be highlighted in such narratives. Collectors often think in long-time horizons.
What seems common today may be rare tomorrow. What seems impossible today may be accepted tomorrow.
History is full of examples where overlooked objects later became priceless artifacts. Coins, being durable and portable, are perfect candidates for such transformations. So the story continues, deeper into speculation, deeper into technical detail, and deeper into human psychology.
The 1-cent coin from the year 2000 is no longer just a piece of copper-plated zinc.
It becomes a symbol of chance, of hidden value, and of the idea that history can be hiding in plain sight.
And as this journey moves forward, the line between fact, belief, and legend becomes thinner, pulling more and more people into the endless search for the extraordinary hidden inside the ordinary.
As we move further into this story, the focus shifts from what the coin is, to what the coin could represent in the future, because value is not frozen in time. Value moves with stories, with discovery, with belief, and with the passage of years. A 1-cent coin dated 2000 exists at the intersection of modern minting technology and old-world collecting passion, and that combination creates a strange tension that keeps collectors obsessed. One of the most powerful forces in numismatics is survival rate. Millions of pennies were minted in the year 2000, But how many will survive in top condition 50 or 100 years from now?
Zinc-based pennies are fragile.
They rot from the inside when exposed to moisture, chemicals, or even simple air over long periods.
Many coins that look fine today will not survive intact.
This means the future population of high-grade 2000 pennies may be far smaller than people expect. Condition scarcity is a silent killer of supply. Even if a coin is common in circulated grades, it can be rare or even nearly unobtainable in perfect condition.
Collectors who chase perfection understand this deeply.
A flawless coin is not just about looks, it is about time standing still. A perfect 2000 penny is a snapshot of the minting moment, untouched by human use. Then there is the role of registry sets. Wealthy collectors compete to build the finest possible sets of coins, ranked publicly by grading companies. In these competitions, the difference between second place and first place can come down to a single coin, a single grade point, or a single extraordinary error.
When pride and reputation enter the equation, price becomes secondary. A collector chasing the top spot may pay amounts that outsiders find insane. This is how ordinary denominations become extraordinary assets.
The penny is underestimated precisely because it is small. When something small becomes rare at the highest level, it creates shock value. The idea that a 1-cent coin could be worth millions or more disrupts expectations, and disruption is memorable. Memorable objects attract attention, and attention fuels markets. Another layer of mystery surrounds mint documentation.
Not every error is recorded. Not every anomaly is explained.
Some coins exist without clear answers as to how they were made. These orphan errors become legends because no one can fully explain them. A 2000 penny with an unexplainable metal composition, strike pattern, or die feature would instantly become a subject of intense debate and fascination. Debate itself creates value.
When experts argue, collectors listen. Forums fill with speculation. Videos rack up millions of views. Each view adds another layer to the coin's myth.
Over time, myth and market can blend so closely that separating them becomes impossible. At that point, value is no longer just about objective rarity, it is about narrative dominance. Narratives also change with generations.
What older collectors dismiss, younger collectors may embrace.
Digital native generations are comfortable with extreme valuations, virtual assets, and symbolic worth. To them, the idea that a penny could be valued in the tens of millions does not feel as absurd as it once did. In a world where digital images, virtual land, and intangible tokens sell for staggering sums, a unique physical object with history can feel reassuringly solid. The year 2000 also benefits from global recognition.
Unlike many dates that matter only to specialists, 2000 is universally understood. It requires no explanation. It marks a boundary in human consciousness.
Coins with universally meaningful dates have broader appeal, reaching beyond traditional collectors into investors, historians, and cultural archivists. Another factor is media amplification.
A single confirmed discovery can change everything.
If one extraordinary 2000 penny were authenticated and publicized, it would trigger a chain reaction.
Prices of related coins would rise. Search activity would explode. People would begin saving, grading, and hoarding. Even ordinary examples could see increased premiums simply because of association. Association is powerful.
In markets, proximity to greatness can elevate value. A common coin from a legendary year can become desirable because it feels connected to something larger. This is why even normal millennium year items are often saved and cherished. There is also the idea of the sleeping rarity. Some coins are rare, but the market has not fully realized it yet.
These coins sit quietly in collections or circulation, waiting for rediscovery. Many famous rarities were once overlooked. Their value only exploded when awareness caught up with reality.
The possibility that a 2000 penny could be a sleeping rarity keeps hope alive. Hope is the engine of collecting. It is the same hope that drives treasure hunters, antique hunters, and investors. The hope that something extraordinary is hiding just beneath the surface. Every roll of pennies becomes a potential lottery ticket. Every old jar of change becomes a mystery box. As time moves forward, fewer and fewer people will have first-hand memories of the year 2000. Physical objects from that time will become anchors to a fading collective memory. Coins are especially powerful anchors because they were present in everyday life. They passed through millions of hands. They witnessed ordinary moments that history books never record. In that sense, the value of a 1-cent coin from 2000 is not just financial. It is emotional, cultural, and symbolic. When people assign extreme prices to such objects, they are often paying for meaning, not metal. They are buying a story they can hold, and this is why the idea of a $57,000 million valuation, while extreme, refuses to die. It lives in the space where logic meets imagination. It survives because it challenges assumptions. It survives because it keeps people searching. It survives because humans love the idea that something small can change everything. As this journey continues, the penny becomes less about 1 cent and more about possibility. Possibility that history is still being written. Possibility that the next great discovery has not yet been made. Possibility that the most powerful treasures are not locked in museums, but hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes, the right moment, and the right belief to bring them into the light. As the narrative deepens even further, the penny from the year 2000 begins to transform from a simple collectible into a mirror reflecting human behavior, economics, and the way societies assign worth. At this stage, the story is no longer only about rarity or mint errors, it becomes about time, legacy, and the long shadow that ordinary objects can cast when history looks back at them. Every coin is a survivor. To exist today, a coin must avoid being melted, destroyed, lost beyond recovery, or damaged beyond recognition.
Modern pennies face an unusual threat, they are often considered disposable.
People throw them into jars, cars, drawers, and pockets without care. This careless treatment dramatically reduces the number of pristine survivors. Future collectors will not be impressed by how many pennies were minted in 2000, they will care about how many remain untouched, sharp, and original. Originality is critical. A coin that has never been cleaned, polished, or altered carries its full historical surface. Cleaning, while tempting to non-collectors, permanently damages value. The irony is painful, many potentially valuable coins have been destroyed by well-meaning hands trying to make them look better. A truly original 2000 penny, with natural luster and undisturbed surfaces, becomes more special with every passing year. Then there is the slow, unstoppable force of inflation. 1 cent in the year 2000 already had limited buying power. Decades later, its practical value continues to shrink. Yet at the same time, its collectible value can rise. This contradiction is at the heart of numismatics. The less useful a coin becomes in daily life, the more interesting it can become as a historical artifact. Future generations may look back at the penny as a symbol of a different economic mindset, a time when physical cash still mattered in everyday transactions. In a world increasingly dominated by digital payments, cryptocurrencies, and contactless systems, a physical 1 cent coin becomes almost ceremonial. It represents touch, weight, sound, and presence in a way digital money cannot. The weight of the 2000 penny, approximately 2.5 grams, may seem insignificant, but it is part of its identity.
Weight confirms authenticity.
Weight tells stories of composition, technology, and cost-cutting decisions made by governments. When people talk about rare-off metal strikes, weight becomes the first clue that something is wrong in the best possible way. Metal itself carries symbolism. Copper has been associated with humanity for thousands of years.
It is one of the first metals ever used by humans.
Even in its diluted, plated form, copper connects the modern penny to ancient history. A 2000 penny therefore becomes a bridge between prehistoric metallurgy and modern industrial processes. Another element that adds to mystique is documentation gaps.
The US Mint, like any large institution, does not publicly record every mistake. Some errors are caught and destroyed. Others escape.
Over time, records are lost, staff retire, and knowledge fades.
This creates space for mystery.
Coins that appear without explanation become conversation pieces, debated endlessly by experts and enthusiasts alike. Mystery fuels value.
A coin with a clear, boring explanation is easier to price. A coin that raises questions invites speculation, and speculation invites money.
Collectors love puzzles. The more unsolved a coin story is, the more people want to own it, if only to be part of that story. The global nature of modern collecting also matters. A century ago, coin collecting was largely local or national. Today, a rare penny can be discussed, analyzed, and auctioned globally within hours. Wealth from any corner of the world can flow toward a single object. This global liquidity dramatically increases the potential ceiling for prices. When people hear extreme valuations, they often laugh.
But laughter is often the first reaction to paradigm shifts.
Many objects that now sit in museums or private vaults were once dismissed as worthless. The penny's journey from everyday nuisance to potential cultural artifact follows the same pattern. There is also the factor of trust.
In high-end markets, trust is everything.
Once a coin is certified, published, and accepted by the community as genuine and extraordinary, its value stabilizes at a higher level.
Trust turns speculation into confidence. Confidence attracts serious money. As decades pass, stories crystallize. Legends become history.
If a particular 2000 penny were ever officially recognized as unique or historically significant, its story would be retold endlessly. Future collectors would not question why it is valuable, they would accept it as a given, just as today we accept the value of famous historical coins without thinking twice. At this point in the journey, the penny is no longer small. It carries the weight of time, technology, and belief. It becomes evidence that value is not inherent, but assigned, negotiated, and reinforced over generations. The idea that a 1 cent coin could be associated with unimaginable sums is not really about the coin at all. It is about how humans decide what matters, and so the story moves forward, not toward an ending, but toward a future where the penny from the year 2000 may be seen not as loose change, but as a marker of an era, a survivor of transition, and a reminder that even the most overlooked objects can one day stand at the center of extraordinary stories. As the journey continues, the penny from the year 2000 begins to exist in two worlds at once: the physical world of metal and minting, and the invisible world of imagination, belief, and future possibility. This dual existence is what allows such a small object to carry such massive expectations. At this stage, the discussion is no longer about whether the penny is important, but about how importance is created and sustained over time. Collectors often speak about the long view.
This is the idea that true significance is not always recognized immediately.
In the year 2000 itself, no one thought twice about a newly minted penny. It passed through vending machines, cash registers, pockets, and wallets without ceremony. Yet history often works quietly. What is ordinary at birth can become extraordinary with age. Time filters objects.
It removes the weak, the damaged, and the forgotten.
What survives is not just metal, but story. The penny that survives intact through decades becomes a witness to social change. It has lived through shifts in technology, economics, and culture.
It has outlasted trends, devices, and even entire ways of life. Another powerful force is rediscovery.
Many valuable coins were not recognized at the moment they were minted. They were discovered later, sometimes generations later. A coin sitting unnoticed in a box can suddenly be re-examined under new knowledge, new technology, or new market conditions. What was once dismissed can be reclassified as exceptional. Technology itself changes the game. Advanced imaging, metal analysis, and digital databases allow collectors to identify patterns that were invisible before. A 2000 penny with subtle die markers or unusual composition could be recognized in the future in ways that are impossible today. This means that the full story of these coins may not yet be written. The role of storytelling cannot be overstated.
Humans are narrative-driven.
A coin with a compelling story becomes more than an object, it becomes a character. The Millennium Penny can be framed as a symbol of transition, standing between two centuries, two ways of thinking, two worlds. This framing gives it emotional weight. Emotion is often dismissed in financial discussions, but it is central to high-end collecting. People do not spend extreme amounts of money purely for logic. They spend it for meaning, identity, and legacy. Owning a legendary object allows a collector to feel connected to something larger than themselves. Legacy is a crucial concept.
Wealthy collectors often think about what they will leave behind. They want their collections to matter.
They want future generations to talk about them. A unique or legendary 2000 penny could become a centerpiece of such a legacy, a symbol that outlives its owner. There is also the idea of cultural preservation.
Coins are among the most durable historical artifacts.
They survive wars, disasters, and societal collapse. In the far future, coins may tell stories when written records are lost. A penny from the year 2000 could one day be studied as evidence of how society functioned at the dawn of the digital age. As rumors and stories circulate, skepticism grows alongside belief.
Skepticism is healthy. It forces higher standards of proof. In this tension between belief and doubt, the strongest stories emerge.
A coin that can survive scrutiny becomes even more valuable because it has been tested. Market cycles also play a role. Interest in coins rises and falls with economic conditions. During times of uncertainty, people often turn to tangible assets. Coins, being portable and historically resilient, benefit from this shift. A modern coin with legendary potential fits perfectly into such narratives. The extreme valuation figures, like $57,000 million, function as symbols rather than literal price tags. They express the idea of unlimited potential. They say, this is not just another coin. Even if such numbers are never realized in a public sale, they shape perception and discussion. Perception shapes reality in markets.
When enough people believe something is special, it becomes special. This does not happen overnight. It happens through repetition, reinforcement, and shared belief.
Videos, discussions, articles, and conversations all contribute to this process. The penny's small size actually enhances this effect. The contrast between size and value is shocking, and shock captures attention.
Attention leads to curiosity. Curiosity leads to research. Research leads to discovery.
Discovery leads to value. As this part of the story unfolds, the penny is no longer passive.
It actively influences behavior.
It causes people to look more closely, to learn, to question, and to imagine. It turns everyday life into a treasure hunt, and in that sense, the penny from the year 2000 has already achieved something remarkable.
Regardless of its final market value, it has inspired thought, conversation, and exploration.
It has reminded people that history is not only found in textbooks and museums, but in pockets, jars, and forgotten corners of ordinary life. The journey continues, deeper into philosophy, market psychology, and the future of collecting, where the smallest unit of money becomes a powerful symbol of how humans create meaning, assign value, and search endlessly for wonder in the simplest things. As we move into this next stage, the penny from the year 2000 begins to feel less like an object and more like a question. A question about how value is born, how it grows, and how it sometimes explodes far beyond logic. At this level, the conversation enters the realm of philosophy, where metal and money fade into the background and human perception takes center stage. Every market is built on belief. Stock markets, art markets, real estate markets, and collector markets all rise and fall on shared confidence.
Coins are no exception.
A 1-cent coin has no natural destiny to be worth anything more than 1 cent.
Yet history proves again and again that destiny is rewritten by attention.
Attention transforms scarcity into power. Scarcity itself is not always physical.
Sometimes it is informational.
When knowledge is limited, the few who understand something deeply gain an advantage. In the future, new research or newly uncovered mint data could suddenly reframe the importance of certain 2000 pennies.
A previously ignored variation might be revealed as extraordinarily rare.
In that moment, the market would change overnight. There is also the role of authority. When respected experts, institutions, or publications recognize an object as important, that recognition carries weight.
Museums validate. Auction houses amplify. Certification companies formalize. Once all three align, an object crosses a threshold.
It stops being debated and starts being accepted. Acceptance is powerful. Once a story is accepted, it becomes part of collective knowledge.
Future collectors grow up hearing it as fact.
They do not ask why the coin is valuable, they ask whether they can ever own one.
This is how legends are cemented. Another aspect that deepens fascination is the idea of the last. Humans are obsessed with endings. The last book printed before a revolution. The last photograph taken before a disaster. If the penny ever disappears from circulation, coins near symbolic dates like the year 2000 will be reinterpreted.
They will be seen as early markers of decline or transformation. Transformation is the true theme here.
The penny transforms from currency to artifact. From artifact to symbol. From symbol to legend.
Each transformation layer adds value that has nothing to do with copper or zinc and everything to do with meaning. Meaning is subjective, but markets turn subjectivity into numbers. Those numbers can grow enormous when meaning resonates with powerful individuals. A billionaire does not buy with the same mindset as an average person. They buy for narrative dominance, uniqueness, and legacy. To them, paying unimaginable sums can feel logical if the object fulfills a deeper purpose. This is why extreme valuations are always driven by a small number of actors. You do not need millions of buyers. You need two who truly care. When two such people collide in a competitive environment, prices can escape gravity. The penny's simplicity enhances this effect. It is universally understood.
No explanation is required.
Anyone, anywhere, can instantly grasp the absurdity and the magic of a 1-cent coin worth a fortune. That instant comprehension gives it viral potential across cultures and languages. Viral attention changes everything.
It creates feedback loops. Attention attracts money. Money attracts more attention.
The object becomes self-reinforcing.
Even skeptics become participants by talking about it. Debate itself becomes fuel. There is also an element of rebellion in penny collecting.
The penny has been mocked, dismissed, and threatened with extinction. Elevating it to legendary status feels like defiance. It is a way of saying that nothing is truly worthless unless we decide it is. This defiance resonates with younger collectors, who often challenge traditional hierarchies of value. They are comfortable with the idea that value is constructed, not fixed. To them, the penny's rise from nuisance to icon makes perfect sense. As generations shift, so do priorities.
What one generation ignores, another celebrates. Coins from the year 2000 will eventually be viewed through historical distance rather than familiarity. Distance creates romance.
Romance creates desire. Desire, once ignited, is difficult to control.
It spreads quietly, then suddenly.
One discovery, one viral moment, one record sale, and the landscape changes forever. What was once hypothetical becomes inevitable. At this point in the story, the penny no longer needs proof of its potential.
Its potential exists in the structure of human behavior itself.
As long as humans value stories, symbols, and survival through time, the possibility remains alive. The penny from the year 2000 continues its silent wait. It does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, patient, unchanged, while the world around it evolves. And in that patience lies its greatest strength, because history always rewards the objects that endure long enough for meaning to catch up with them. As the story reaches even deeper levels, the penny from the year 2000 begins to feel almost alive, not because it moves, but because it absorbs meaning from every era it survives. It becomes a silent observer of change, carrying the fingerprints of time while remaining physically small and deceptively simple. At this stage, the conversation turns toward destiny, chance, and the role of the individual in shaping history. Every legendary coin is connected to a human moment.
Someone noticed it. Someone questioned it. Someone refused to ignore it.
Without that human spark, rarity can remain invisible forever. A 1-cent coin can sit unnoticed for decades, even centuries, until the right person looks at it with curiosity instead of indifference. That moment of attention can change everything. Chance plays a brutal and beautiful role. Two identical pennies minted on the same day can live completely different lives. One may be spent, damaged, corroded, and lost. The other may be saved, protected, and rediscovered.
The difference in their final value can be infinite.
This randomness adds emotional power to collecting, because it mirrors life itself. The idea that history chooses its survivors resonates deeply with collectors. A 2000 penny that survives an extraordinary condition begins to feel chosen.
Not in a mystical sense, but in a statistical one. Against overwhelming odds, it remains intact.
That survival alone commands respect. Respect is the seed of reverence.
Reverence turns objects into relics. Once an object becomes a relic, its value transcends economics.
It enters the realm of cultural significance. At that point, money becomes merely a measuring tool, not the source of worth. Another powerful layer is secrecy. Some of the most valuable objects in the world are not publicly known. They exist in private collections, vaults, or family estates.
Their owners may choose silence over exposure.
This secrecy fuels rumors and legends. People imagine what they cannot see, and imagination often exaggerates reality in ways that increase fascination. The possibility that an extraordinary 2000 penny exists but has not yet been revealed is intoxicating.
It keeps the story open-ended. An open-ended story never dies.
As long as there is no final answer, the search continues. The search itself becomes part of the value. Entire communities form around searching, discussing, comparing, and debating.
Knowledge is shared.
Myths are challenged.
Occasionally, something real emerges.
Those moments justify all the time spent looking. There is also the emotional reward of discovery.
Finding something rare creates a rush that cannot be replicated easily. It is a moment of personal history, a story that can be told forever.
The idea that such a moment could come from a 1-cent coin makes it even more powerful. Power, in this context, is not domination.
It is influence. The penny influences behavior. It influences thought.
It influences how people see everyday objects. It teaches that nothing should be dismissed too quickly. As society becomes faster and more digital, slow objects gain appeal.
Coins do not update. They do not require electricity. They do not disappear with a server failure. Their physical presence becomes comforting.
In uncertain times, permanence feels valuable. The year 2000 sits at the edge of this transformation.
It is old enough to be history, but new enough to feel familiar. That balance is rare.
Objects from such transitional moments often gain importance as symbols of before and after. Future historians may study coins from this era to understand how society bridged the analog and digital worlds. A penny from 2000 could become a teaching tool, a reference point, a physical artifact used to explain abstract changes. At that point, value becomes institutional. Schools, museums, and archives care less about market price and more about representation. Yet institutional interest often pushes market value even higher, because it confirms significance. The extreme numbers associated with legendary pennies function like beacons.
They draw attention from far away. They tell people that something unusual is happening here.
Even if those numbers are debated, they succeed in one crucial way: they keep the story alive, and as long as the story is alive, the penny continues to grow in importance.
Not because it changes, but because people do.
Each new generation brings new interpretations, new values, and new dreams. The penny from the year 2000 does not need to prove itself today.
Its true audience may not even be born yet.
History often works on schedules that feel unbearably slow in the present. But when it finally moves, it moves decisively. So the penny waits.
Quiet. Unassuming. Small.
Carrying within it the accumulated weight of curiosity, speculation, belief, and time. Waiting for the moment when someone, somewhere, looks at it and sees not 1 cent, but an entire universe of possibility. As the story stretches onward, the penny from the year 2000 begins to take on the quality of inevitability, as if its significance is not a matter of if, but when.
At this stage, the discussion drifts toward destiny shaped by collective memory, because objects do not become legendary in isolation.
They become legendary because societies decide to remember them. Memory is selective. Entire eras are reduced to symbols, and often those symbols are small, portable, and familiar.
A coin fits perfectly into this role. It can be held, examined, and passed down.
A 2000 penny can sit in the palm of a hand while carrying the weight of a global moment that marked the turn of a century. As years pass, the year 2000 itself becomes more distant, more abstract.
What was once a lived experience becomes a historical reference.
Physical artifacts from that time gain importance because they provide a direct connection to a moment that can no longer be experienced firsthand. The penny becomes a time capsule without walls. The simplicity of the penny is part of its strength.
There is no complexity to distract from its symbolism.
It does not rely on advanced design or precious metals to command attention.
Its power comes from contrast.
The contrast between face value and perceived worth.
The contrast between abundance and rarity.
The contrast between what it was meant to be and what it may become. Collectors often speak of the moment when an object crosses over. This is when it stops being collected casually and starts being pursued seriously. Prices begin to separate dramatically between ordinary examples and extraordinary ones.
Scholarship increases. Documentation expands.
The object gains a permanent place in reference books and discussions. The penny from 2000 is still approaching that line, still gathering momentum. Momentum builds quietly. It builds through conversations, videos, articles, and personal stories.
Someone finds an unusual coin. Someone else doubts it. Another person investigates. Each step adds texture to the narrative.
Even false leads contribute, because they sharpen understanding and keep interest alive. There is also the idea of generational rediscovery.
What one generation saves, another re-evaluates. Coins put away by parents or grandparents resurface decades later. New eyes see old objects differently.
A 2000 penny discovered in the future may be judged by standards and desires that do not yet exist. Desire itself evolves. What people want reflects who they are and what they fear losing. As the physical world becomes more abstract and digital, tangible links to the past become emotionally charged. Coins, being durable and authentic, benefit from this shift. Authenticity is increasingly rare in a world of copies, simulations, and reproductions. A coin cannot be duplicated without losing something essential.
Its wear, its tone, its microscopic features are unique. This uniqueness gives it presence. Presence creates trust.
Trust creates value. The penny also carries a democratic spirit. Unlike many collectibles, it was accessible to everyone at birth.
Anyone could have held one in the year 2000. This shared origin story makes its later elevation feel meaningful rather than exclusive.
It suggests that greatness can emerge from common ground. This idea resonates strongly with cultural narratives about opportunity and chance. The thought that something overlooked could later be celebrated aligns with deeply held beliefs about fairness, surprise, and reward. The penny becomes a metaphor as much as an object. As institutions evolve, so do their collections.
Museums that once focused on ancient artifacts increasingly recognize the importance of modern history.
Everyday objects from recent decades are now preserved with care. A penny from 2000 could one day sit behind glass, not because of its metal, but because of what it represents. Representation matters. A single object can stand in for millions of lives and experiences. The penny can represent commerce, daily routine, childhood memories, and economic reality at the turn of the millennium. That representational power is what elevates it beyond its denomination. The market responds to these shifts gradually, then suddenly. Long periods of quiet are followed by bursts of activity.
Prices jump. Attention spikes. New records are set.
Those who paid attention early are surprised. Those who ignored the signs are shocked. Shock is part of the story's power. The idea that a penny could command extraordinary attention disrupts assumptions.
Disruption forces rethinking. Rethinking opens new possibilities.
This cycle repeats, pushing the narrative forward. At this stage, the penny no longer needs hype to survive.
Its story has become self-sustaining.
It lives in discussions, in searches, in quiet moments when someone pauses before spending a coin and wonders, and so the journey continues, not toward a final answer, but toward a future shaped by curiosity and time. The penny from the year 2000 remains exactly what it has always been in form, yet endlessly changing in meaning. Small, silent, and patient, it continues to gather significance, waiting for the moment when history decides to look back and recognize what was always there. As the story moves closer to its final layers, the penny from the year 2000 begins to feel like a quiet challenge to the way people measure importance.
It asks a simple but unsettling question: who decides what matters, and when? At this point, the coin is no longer chasing validation, it is redefining the terms under which validation exists. History often works backward. Events that seemed insignificant at the time later become defining moments.
Objects that were mass-produced become rare not because they were special at birth, but because time reshaped their context. The penny from 2000 lives inside this reversal. It was born ordinary, but it ages inside an extraordinary narrative. As decades pass, documentation becomes more important than memory. Written records fade, digital formats change, but physical objects remain stubbornly real. A coin does not need translation software. It does not need electricity. It exists exactly as it did when it was made. This permanence gives it authority. Authority grows when an object becomes a reference point. Researchers, collectors, and historians begin to use it to explain larger ideas. The penny can explain inflation, monetary policy, industrial production, and everyday life at the turn of the millennium. In this way, it becomes educational as well as collectible. Education feeds legitimacy. Once an object is taught, displayed, or cited, it gains institutional weight. Institutional weight changes how markets behave. What was once speculative becomes respected. What was once debated becomes documented. There is also the slow emotional shift that happens when generations change. People who lived through the year 2000 will eventually be gone. For future generations, that time will feel distant, almost mythical. Physical artifacts from that era will be treasured precisely because they offer direct contact with a world that no longer exists. The penny's modesty amplifies this effect. Grand objects can feel intimidating. Small objects feel intimate. A penny invites touch. It invites reflection. It fits into personal stories. That intimacy makes it powerful. Power, in this sense, is not about control but resonance. The penny resonates because it connects large ideas to small experiences. Global change to pocket change. Historical transition to daily routine. That contrast makes it unforgettable. As narratives mature, they simplify. The most enduring stories are easy to explain. A penny from the year 2000. 1 cent turn of the millennium. Hidden value. That simplicity makes the story portable. It can be told anywhere, to anyone. Portability is essential for legends. A story that travels survives. Each retelling adds nuance. Each listener adds interpretation. Over time, the story becomes larger than any single telling. The coin becomes a symbol rather than an item. Symbols attract belief. Belief attracts commitment. Commitment attracts resources. This chain reaction is how markets transform objects into icons. It does not require consensus, only momentum. Momentum builds quietly until it cannot be ignored. One discovery. One publication. One auction. One moment when attention locks in. After that, the conversation changes permanently. At this stage, the extreme valuation figures serve a psychological role. They stretch imagination. They force people to confront the elasticity of value. Whether or not such numbers are ever realized, they succeed in expanding the boundaries of what people think is possible. Possibility is the true currency here. As long as possibility exists, interest remains alive. As long as interest remains alive, the story continues. The penny does not need certainty to thrive, it needs curiosity. Curiosity keeps hands searching, eyes examining, and minds open. It keeps people from dismissing what they do not yet understand. It keeps the door open for surprise. Surprise is history's favorite tool. Again and again, it elevates the overlooked and humbles the obvious. The penny from the year 2000 sits comfortably within this pattern, waiting for the moment when surprise becomes recognition. As we approach the end of this long journey, one truth becomes clear. The value of the penny is not fixed in metal, mint marks, or numbers. It lives in time. It grows with distance. It strengthens with story, and so the penny remains what it has always been physically, yet something entirely different symbolically. A reminder that value is not always loud, not always immediate, and not always logical. Sometimes, value is patient. Sometimes, it hides. Sometimes, it waits quietly inside the smallest things, until the world is ready to see them differently. At the very end of this journey, everything circles back to the beginning, to that simple moment of holding a 1-cent coin in your hand and wondering how something so small could carry such a vast story. By now, the penny from the year 2000 is no longer just metal. It has become an idea, a symbol, and a reflection of how humans relate to time, memory, and value. The final truth is not that a penny must be worth an unimaginable amount of money, but that it can be imagined as such, and imagination has always been one of humanity's most powerful forces. Every great transformation in value begins in the mind before it appears in markets, museums, or history books. Coins that are legendary today were once ignored yesterday. What gives the 2001 cent coin its lasting power is not certainty, but openness. Its story is unfinished. It is still close enough to the present to feel familiar, yet far enough away to begin slipping into history. That balance is rare, and rarity of context can be as important as rarity of metal. The penny teaches patience. It shows that significance does not always announce itself. Sometimes it grows slowly, quietly, through survival, discussion, debate, and belief. It rewards those who look twice at what others overlook. It reminds people that value is often discovered, not assigned. In the end, the penny becomes a mirror. Those who see nothing more than 1 cent are not wrong. Those who see history, possibility, and legend are also not wrong.
Both views can exist at the same time.
That tension is what keeps the story alive long after prices, arguments, and headlines fade. The coin itself will remain
silent, unchanged, waiting.
And somewhere in the future, someone will pick it up, feel its weight, notice its date, and pause. In that pause, the entire story begins again, because the true worth of the penny from the year 2000 is not locked into a number.
It lives in curiosity. It lives in survival.
It lives in the endless human desire to believe that even the smallest things can carry extraordinary meaning.